It's also fragile.
Ready to go?
Yes.
You guys good back there?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yes.
Hey, listener. It's me, Marc Hershon, the host and executive producer for Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast. We're going to get into the show we recorded live this past weekend at the 17th Annual San Francisco Sketchfest in just a moment. This is Epi162, and it's going to be the last installment of Succotash for a while or maybe forever. We're going to take this break or hiatus or vacation or holiday or whatever you want to call it, just a few months shy of our 7th anniversary in Soundcast land. And whether you're a long-time listener or you just found us, I want to thank you for listening and supporting Succotash. When I started doing this show with my producer Joe Polino in his Studio P, the home of the hit, here in Sausalito, California, I really didn't think about it lasting for any particular length of time. My original concept was to create a comedy soundcast that would serve to promote other people's comedy shows and to spread the word about the amazing entertainment value of soundcasts in general. I think we succeeded. When we started, barely 15% of Americans had even heard of soundcasts, or podcasts as they used to be known, let alone regularly downloaded and listened to them. And there were about 50,000 shows out there at the time. Now the number of regular listeners is over 40%. And there are more than 300,000 soundcasts available, featuring every genre you could think of. Comedy soundcasts and networks carrying them have proliferated so fast that we kind of can't keep up by sampling the 8 or 10 we could do in each show. And I've had more and more people asking me if featuring these shows without explicit permission is even legal. Frankly, I don't know. Since we're not profiting by the content, we've never had any sponsor besides Henderson's Pants, and they don't ever pay us. We're more like an entertainment news program, which, at least in my scanty understanding of the law, would constitute fair use. So we're going to wind things down for a bit. I may bring Succotash back as it has been, or with some minor changes in a bit. I may release some special episodes from time to time, which would likely be interviews with comics or soundcasters or actors or what have you. And I'm definitely cooking up some new soundcast ideas. I'll still be reviewing shows for splitsider.com, and I will likely get back to doing my reviews for HuffPost as well. And if you want to reach out to me for any reason, I'm still around. The marc@succotashshow.com email will still go through, and our site will stay up as well. Just don't expect to be bombarded with the number of tweets we normally put out every week. Thanks again for listening. I've enjoyed doing this show for the past 7 years, and I've loved getting to interact with you on whatever basis that's been, even if you've only ever listened and we have not exchanged a single word. Stay tuned after the end of the live show as I have one final cavalcade of gratitude where I thank some recent retweeters, as well as some folks who've been around supporting this show for a lot of our run. All right, let's get on with the show recorded live at SF Sketchfest 2018.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Haywatt here, welcoming you to San Francisco Sketchfest 17, the 262nd and perhaps final episode of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast, and it's coming to you live from Piano Fight, San Francisco's premier indie entertainment venue. Joining us on stage and in your ears today are guests Matt Weinhold and Mark Pitta. Yes, and now here is your host, internationally recognized Comedy Soundcast Soundcaster, the Podfather himself, Marc Hershon.
Yes, thank
Take it away,
you.
Mark.
Thank you. I am Marc Hershon.
Hey, man.
Another hand for Bill Haywatt, the hardest working announcer on Succotash.
Yes, that's me, baby.
Way to go. Welcome to our second ever live Sketchfest presentation. We're happy to be here. Thank you. By your applause, how many people are familiar with Succotash, the comedy? So just our friends. Thank you. Well, for the last 7 years, Succotash has been on. We are the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast. Soundcast being my own personal attempt to try and change the word podcast to soundcast. It has been largely Unsuccessful. Thank you very much. But what we've mainly done is promoted other people's comedy podcasts or soundcasts. We played clips from them. We have them on as guests. And in the early going, it was just a way to try and promote podcasts in general. It was not that many people knew about it. Not that many people listened to it.
You were on the bleeding edge.
I was on the bleeding edge.
Yes.
And I review podcasts for SplitSider.com and for Huffington Post.
International podcasts.
International podcasts
Yes, all over
from
the
South
place.
Africa,
Yes,
from England, from Australia,
Great
from Peru.
Britain.
We've reviewed from all over the place.
Yes.
And we're happy to be here. We're glad that Sketchfest would like us to come back. We're here. Have some great guests for you that have come in at no expense to me, but to themselves, which is fantastic. And we're just going to sit around and talk about kind of their shows. We're going to talk about comedy. We're going to talk about where podcasting is today. We'll take some questions from you, the audience. We have a commercial from our long-running sponsor, Henderson's Pants.
Oh, yeah.
And we also have a Burst O' Durst from comedian Will Durst, a regular segment on our show. Will Durst wanted to be here today, but he's vacationing in Hawaii, so he said, fuck you. But we do.
It's good that he had the opportunity to say "fuck you."
Exactly.
Considering events.
the alert, the missile alert.
My goodness.
But he's okay. Will Durst is okay,
Whoa.
and we have him pre-recorded, so we'll have that. Bill, you wanted to talk about a little something. Bill's career is, I want to say, spotty, but maybe that's the wrong word.
Well, I've been around forever. You know, I was assistant booth announcer at any number of radio stations throughout the United States. I want to tell you, we had a reunion in St. George, Utah. I used to be the assistant booth announcer in WJSG, and we had a reunion, and I was staying at a place like a La Quinta or something, and St. George is unique in that it is downwind from where they used to test nuclear bombs, and it was where they filmed the John Wayne movie, The Conqueror, in around 1953, and they say like 50% of the people who worked on that movie died of cancer because it was like they didn't know
from the fallout.
that those fallout clouds would go over there. Well, anyway, I was staying at this place. I heard this very strange sound. It was like, and I thought, what the hell is this? And I realized there are radioactive frogs that take over St. George, Utah, and they go out there and they take over the backyard. I looked out the backyard of where we were staying, and there were frogs on top of frogs on top of frogs. And I want to play you the sounds of the frogs in St. George, Utah. Now, this is a very subtle mating dance. What we hear the female frogs going, me, 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 me. And the male frogs, the big daddy frogs, are going, yeah, yeah, yeah. Now listen to this. This is what's going on here. Me, 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 me. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. It's like, and things are what's going on in these days is with men and women in the workplace. I think, there's lessons to be learned from the animal kingdom. Women go, me, 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 me. And guys go, yeah, yeah. So that's what I wanted to share. This amazing experience that we had in St. George, Utah with the radioactive frogs.
Bill,
in my
you
backyard.
don't get out a lot, do you?
You're right.
Yeah. You know what?
What?
I think we should bring up our first guest.
Oh, yes,
How about
well.
that? Let's bring up our first guest. He's
Our first guest, I'll tell you about him.
Yes, please
All right,
do.
wait, okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, our first guest started out as a native San Francisco comedian in the early 1980s, but he's gone on to a great many things, including writing and doing voices for MTV's Super Adventure Team. And he is one of the hosts of the popular Monster Party Soundcast. And he's made the trip up from Los Angeles to be with all of you here today. So please welcome past guest and friend of the show, Matt Weinhold. Come on up, Matt.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's the Monster Party theme from your show.
That is the Monster Party theme.
So
Available after the show on a very short CD.
So for those of you unfamiliar with, first of all, welcome.
Thank
Matt.
you.
Thank you for being up here.
Thank you for inviting me to the Tenderloin. I have missed it so.
Matt and I, our association goes way, way back to the early 80s.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you were like one of the first people to ever book me as a stand-up.
That's right.
Been regretting it ever since.
I have been. And so have you. We've both been regretting it.
It's been a lot of bad decisions in the 80s.
Absolutely.
As we all
but
remember.
Tell us a little bit about Monster Party. It's a unique podcast in some ways.
Monster Party, its origin was, so I have these three friends who are good, just great hardcore nerds, especially like horror and sci-fi movies. And so we would go to Comic-Con every year, and we enjoy the con and the dealer's room and everything and watching everybody in costumes. But we found that the part that we really enjoyed was getting together after in our hotel rooms, and we would just get together and we'd have drinks and we'd argue about things that people really shouldn't be arguing about, like Fast and Slow Zombies and Star Trek versus Star Wars, and voices got loud and there was shouting, and it was lovely. It was wonderful, and I look forward to it every year. And so to cut to the chase, we decided at one point, hey, let's make this into a podcast. And so that's what it is. So what it is we start off the show. We have a bunch of cocktails. We usually have a guest. And if you look at the flyers on your tables there, all kinds of guests from various sci-fi shows and movies. People like Denise Crosby from The Next Generation and Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator. Comics, lots of comics from my years in comedy. Greg Proops, Dana Gould, and Marc Hershon.
Yes, and our another of our guests. Actually, our other two guests.
Well, I didn't want to jump the intro,
that's okay.
But yes, Mark Pitta.
Yes.
Friend of the show.
Yes.
And both of you got, and now you've only done it once.
We
got to get you back.
I'd like
we got to
that.
make that happen.
Absolutely.
But yeah, well, that's what we do. We just drink, and we get drunk, and we argue about movies. And if you like horror and sci-fi movies, I think you'd find it entertaining because we're real nerds. This is not any kind of posing. This is not Kevin Smith and his comic book show. These are real hardcore dorks. Spittle hitting each other's faces as we argue about things that we don't agree about. And but between all of us, we've seen a lot of movies. So one of the reasons I would suggest to listen is that if you want to turn yourself on to a bunch of new films, old and new, listen in, because we're always dropping like, hey, did you see this one? And we have the cast is myself, a guy named Larry Stroth, James Gonis, and Sean Sheridan. And Sean has a unique quality because he is an encyclopedia of every.
Yeah, it's astounding.
It's weird.
What he knows.
It's really weird. Like, I mean, he'll pull out these movies, and I go, that doesn't exist, and he'll describe it, and I go, no, you're just making that up. And then, yeah, it does exist. There's one called The Psychopath that he turned me on not long ago about. It's a serial killer movie, but he's a children's show host who doesn't like the way children are treated, so he ends up going out and killing their parents and anybody who's mean to them. And I went, and as soon as he told me this, I was like, well, that's got to be the greatest movie ever. It's not, but it is worth a viewing.
Yeah, it's your idea that people should listen to get ideas for movies to watch is great. Because when I was on the show, I go, I'm kind of a movie nerd. I know a lot of these films, but these guys just outpaced me. It was like you're just barely hanging on for your life. And they're just, what are they talking about now? I have no idea.
And it really opens your eyes too to just Jesus, how many movies have been made. And we also tend to enjoy the ones that are maybe not quite so good, but have a certain charm to them. Movies like The Green Slime. Check it out, Wikipedia.
What about Day of the Triffids?
Day of the Triffids, I would argue that's a good movie.
I thought it was. I enjoyed that.
No, and the Triffids now, the Day of the Triffids about these carnivorous plants. And
everybody's blind.
Yeah, there's a meteor shower that makes everybody blind, and at the same time, mankind has been cultivating these carnivorous plants that then now, because everyone's blind, they go on the rampage, and they shoot acid at people, and it's just, I mean, and there's a 60s version of it. There was I think a mini series done in England in the 80s. There's another feature film, and they're all pretty good because they always do the plants just right. But I have a special fondness for the 60s where it's like, okay, there's going to be no CGI. We're going to have to get some paper mache and some chicken wire and put a guy inside this thing, and you are now a killer plant. Pick up your paycheck at the end of the day.
Be the plant.
Yeah, inhabit the plant.
Now, Bill had a question for you we asked earlier. I thought it would be fascinating for you to re-ask him about.
Please.
What?
About what his favorite monster
Well, I was curious what your favorite monster movie. I'm a big fan of Ray Dennis Steckler. And so anything you could tell me about
was it the
Ray
mixed
Dennis
up zombies who
incredibly strange creatures who stopped living
and became mixed up zombies?
Yes,
that's the
those
one.
guys. Yes.
Wow, yeah.
Anything you can tell me about Ray Dennis Steckler?
If Sean were here, that would be his, because he goes like those movies are kind of hard for me to watch because
really,
yeah. I mean, I'm when it comes to monsters, like favorite monsters. I mean, I do, as you'll see on the flyer.
Who are
my
your
shirt,
favorite monsters?
I do love Godzilla, and I have to recommend a movie that if you haven't seen it now, you know that there was a recent American Godzilla movie, which, with Bryan Cranston, and Godzilla's great, but the movie pretty much blows. There is a Japanese version called Shin Godzilla, which is so good, and it is the most recent Godzilla movie, and Godzilla looks very different. He's huge, very tall, and the movie is basically a satire on bureaucracy, especially Japanese bureaucracy. The movie really is more about the human response to Godzilla. So, like, Godzilla comes up on the shore and then just stops, and so you cut to a boardroom where everyone's arguing about, well, which department is going to deal with this, and every single scene, it's a different, every time he hurts somebody in the city and they try to send the military after him, they got to worry about collateral damage and how it's going to reflect on the prime minister, and it's wonderful. And you can almost play a drinking game of how many times they go to a different boardroom to discuss the Godzilla crisis. But I think that has now been released on DVD, so if you haven't seen this movie, check it out. It's really good, and it's a nice little blend of a Godzilla movie, a horror movie, and bureaucratic satire.
Matt, I want to know, is there a go-to movie that you have that you've seen many, many times that you say, oh, man, I'm in such a mood, I need to uplift myself, I'm going to go see Repo Man, or I'm going to go see Halloween 3, or is there one that always does it for you that you've seen many times?
Well, there is one movie that I like to play around Christmas. It's called The Brood.
The Brood.
And it's a David Cronenberg movie, the man who brought you Scanners and The Fly and Dead Ringers and The Dead Zone. And this is a movie about, so there is a new school of psychiatric therapy called psychoplasmics. And Oliver Reed teaches that. So right off the bat, you know that it's not going to go well because Oliver Reed is teaching it. And it's
dead giveaway.
Yeah, right there. But so Oliver Reed, his theory is that what he can do is he can make whatever they're going through, their emotional turmoil, he can manifest it through his therapy. So it actually shows up physically on them. So a guy is discussing his horrible family life, and he starts to break out in these boils. But then as soon as the therapy is done, they go back in again. And so right off the bat, you're like, this movie's bonkers. Then what you find out is there's a guy he has an estranged wife, and they have a kid, and the wife has been taking the psychoplasmics thing, and she's really angry about the divorce. And so her anger now manifests itself by she grows a sack on her stomach that produces these little blonde-haired troglodyte boys, and a number of them. And they dress them up in like these little onesies, and they have these thick foreheads. And whenever she gets mad, they murder.
And this is your favorite Christmas
And
movie.
this is my favorite Christmas movie. It's not
fantastic.
Christmas, really, without the brew.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Let's maybe it's time for us to bring us a commercial from our sponsor, Henderson's
all right.
Pants, and then we'll bring our next
Well,
guest up and continue the conversation. Are you ready?
Of course. Treasured friends, Bill Haywatt here. Remember that old adage, if you want to understand someone, walk a mile in their shoes? Well, Henderson's Pants, proud sponsor of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast, suggests that if you truly wish to know where someone is coming from, you're better off strolling a mile in their pants, which is why we are announcing the brand new #MeToo trousers, the first patented ladies' pants for men. It's created by the justifiably pissed-off female designers at Henderson's. These sturdy slacks will stand up to the most inappropriate sexist treatment and patriarchal, judgmental, dominant paradigm attitudes of your co-workers. Tailored to make the male physique as flattering as possible, #MeToo trousers are designed to grab a man in all the wrong places, forcing you to bend over a desk with ease and luxuriate in the extra padding over the knees for that last-minute job interview. And they'll never fail to draw catcalls and wolf whistles as you attempt to make your way past construction sites, casting couches, and the Senate offices in Washington, D.C. Originally designed for Harvey Weinstein, Matt Lauer, and Judge Roy Moore, and too many others to be named here, Henderson's #MeToo trousers, which already cost 27% less than the usual men's pants for men, are now available with a limited 2-for-1 offer from Groupon. That's the #MeToo trousers from Henderson's, makers of fine knee pants and knickers since 1492. And now back to Marc Hershon and Succotash.
Thank you, Bill Haywatt. Thank you very much. Yay, Henderson's Pants.
Yay, pants! Pants are awesome.
I'm all for pants.
Are you ready to?
I'm a big pants fan.
Are you ready to introduce our next guest?
Well, if you would like to bring him out here, I will help you.
Please do so.
Hey, folks. All right, then. So, our next guest is one of the first guests that we ever had on Succotash 7 years ago in episode 5. He's another Bay Area native, and like our first guest, he too started doing stand-up in the early 80s, and in addition to being a guest on talk shows, including The Tonight Show with both Johnny Carson and Jay Leno, he shot a pilot for NBC, he's hosted Mark Pitta and Friends for over a decade at the Throckmorton Theater in Middle Valley, and he drove here all the way across the Golden Gate Bridge to be with us at tremendous personal expense and risk. Please welcome Mark Pitta!
Mark Pitta!
Da, 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 da.
Come on.
I'm going away.
Mark, thank you for
I
being
can't tell
here.
if this is my draw or Matt's draw.
This is the Succotash magic.
How many people here for Matt Weinhold?
Perfect.
How many people here for me?
All right, now Succotash.
How many people are here for Succotash?
How many people are here for Bill Haywatt, the real star of the show?
Yeah.
There we go.
I love you all. I love you all.
I think I need to leave.
How many people? Is my mic on? How many people here are court appointed? Doing a podcast is kind of like jury duty. You end up on one at least once a year.
And the response we've been getting from the audience is kind of like when I do it in my car. It's exactly the same.
I too love The Brood.
The Brood is awesome,
another
isn't it?
Brood fan.
The Brood
Okay.
is very good. You got to see The Brood.
I'm telling you.
Do you watch it at Christmas time?
No, I watch it on my birthday and on Matt's birthday. Matt, I thought Centipede was your go-to movie.
Well, I do enjoy The Human Centipede, and that has made me quite a few enemies, actually.
There were some sequels to The Human Centipede.
I have not
right?
seen the sequels because they have to be garbage. But the
The
first Human
centipede gets
Centipede...
longer and longer.
Gold. Pure
Yeah,
gold.
no, that's ridiculous. But sewing 3 people together, that can happen. And it's ass to mouth. And
Jesus.
ATM.
enjoy your entrees.
When
everyone.
I did my podcast, I never used terms like that. You know,
That's right.
Mark, I did a podcast
I
way
know.
before Jerry Seinfeld did Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
That's right.
Because I would always drive comedians back to the airport after a Tuesday gig at the Throckmorton, and he stole it from me.
You'd record them in the car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he stole it from me, and I'm here to
Litigate?
Get your title back?
I'm upset.
Okay.
Okay, well, don't.
Well, we're here. We're here for you.
You say this is live. It's live because there are people here, but is it live?
Is it live like going out right now?
Let's say yes.
Okay.
Let's just say yes.
All right. It's theater, so
nothing
it's a
like-
theater of the mind.
There's nothing like
It's what you want it to be.
There's nothing like being in front of people who are looking at their phones, right, Matt? That's the most exciting thing that's done to our business is people looking at their phones.
They're looking up your resumes, guys.
Yeah, they're looking up the Brood,
Yes.
as they should.
Some of them are watching The Brood on their phones.
Yeah. I just want to say one more thing about the Human Centipede now that you open this up. But, okay, the Human Centipede is truly the best movie about a human centipede that you will ever see.
That I concur.
It really,
I agree.
I'm telling you.
I think we all agree.
If, you're thinking, okay, a human sewing people together ass to mouth.
At
Is
its
it
core,
tasteful?
it's a love
Yes.
story. At its core, it's a love
At
story.
its core, how could it not be a love story?
Really. It's
It's about
people coming
codependence.
together, really. Some people are eating. Jesus Christ, man.
Some people are eating things that look like the human centipede.
Okay, enough
If
of
you
that.
look
I
at your
should have said
macaroni and
questions.
cheese
Hey,
closely.
wait a minute.
Reform.
What if we opened like a hot dog shop? And we sew 3 different hot dogs together?
And it's half off if you dress like the kids in the Brood. Like little Teletubbies. They look like Teletubbies.
I think
Now
we
what-
got something here.
Now, one of the reasons I was glad that Mark was available as well as Matt was because Mark has actually done Matt's show a couple of times.
Like, I think, 3 times? 2 times?
Twice.
Twice.
And so he's joined in the drunken revelry.
Yeah. One of our favorite guests.
And
actually,
Mark
but
knows
of course.
Mark knows just as much about movies as Sean Sheridan, I think.
Yeah.
No, let me say something about Monster Party if you haven't listened to it. You'll be amazed that these guys aren't on their computer. They use their brains to come up with actors and scenario. You're amazing that you don't have to Google anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of time growing up alone made all this happen for me. So, yeah.
Were you an
Top of the
only
world.
child? Were you an only child, man?
I might as well have been.
I see.
Welcome back to Family Issues. The new Succotash.
I feel like I can trust you
Rip-off.
people.
I knew I would come up with a new format while I was here tonight. That's fantastic. Let's talk about you, Matt.
My brother is 7 years older than me. My sister is 9 years older. So obviously we know what happened. But they were all out. When I was growing up, my brother was, smoking the ganja and doing the goofballs and yeah.
And Matt,
my sister was married.
And how did that make you feel?
Kind of like an angry little blonde troglodyte boy. Yeah, I would walk around. After seeing The Brood, it kind of showed me what to do.
Yeah.
I would just come at my parents in the middle of the night wearing a blonde wig and a onesie.
Can I say something about Oliver Reed? That I actually have a connection with Oliver Reed.
Oh.
When I was in high school, they were shooting Burnt Offerings at the Dunsmuir House in Oakland. And that's the house they used as the haunted house.
Have you guys seen Burnt Offerings? Anyone?
We just heard the Tenderloin. There was a murder.
The
heard a
shrieks of
murder.
the Tenderloin live.
Look,
on
you don't need
Succotash.
horror films. We have real horror right there.
Yeah. Welcome back to the corner of crack and horror. Okay. They were shooting a scene, and being a novice movie on the set kind of person, I was in high school, I got closer and closer to the action. They were filming on the porch. It was Karen Black and Oliver Reed and Betty Davis.
Wow.
And I got closer and closer, and then Oliver Reed calls the director over, and all of a sudden the director goes, "Okay, everybody move back." So he blamed me because he couldn't remember his lines, and he blamed me because they said I was in his eye line. Then I read the autobiography of Oliver Reed, and they said when he couldn't remember his lines, he would blame somebody that was in his eye line. So I'm actually in the book as the guy who.
Got
So is that
Yeah.
Christian Bale as well?
No.
Did he?
It was before all that, but it was interesting that to see a movie that close, and
You've been a
Close enough to smell the booze on his breath?
it was Guinness.
Yeah, because Oliver Reed was quite the drinker.
He died in a bar.
Is that right?
He died in a pub.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of the equivalent of Dick Shawn dying on stage.
Doing what he,
Like
doing what he
that's
loved.
how I want to go out.
Dick
Hey,
Shawn.
there's a
He did
good
what he
topic.
loved. Yeah.
How do you want to go out? That's a good topic.
So, Mark, you've also been a huge movie fan, but not just sort of on the sci-fi monster thing. You're like
No.
across the board. You've got like,
I am across the board.
what's your favorite movie? Your go-to film?
Slapshot.
Really?
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
I
can't.
Yeah.
I always get surprised by the humor in it that I forgot some of the jokes. But my favorite line you can't say anymore because it's not PC. When the Hanson brothers show up, the guys with the glasses, and Paul Newman says to Strother Martin, "They're fucking retards. They brought their fucking toys with them." I just love Paul Newman swearing was just hysterical to me.
That's a great movie. I love that
You
movie.
can't say retard anymore.
A favorite comedy of mine around that same time?
Yeah.
The Longest Yard, the original
Yes.
Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds.
Yes,
Is
and
one
George
of those
Kennedy.
movies. George Kennedy's so great.
Crew. Yeah.
It's one of those movies where it's on, I have to watch it. Like
Now, of course,
yeah.
I worked with George Kennedy.
Did you really?
I did, in a little movie that I wrote for the Hallmark Channel called Monster Makers.
Is that right?
Yes, and George Kennedy played this old director of monster movies from the 50s.
And tell us about
He was
Monster Maker.
About Monster Makers?
Yeah.
I hate to
yes.
tell you this, guys, but George Kennedy wasn't in The Longest Yard.
What?
No, he was in Cool Hand Luke.
He was in Cool Hand Luke.
Oh.
You're getting
Wow.
that mixed up.
Should
by
we,
another
should we
prison
start
movie.
the show over?
Okay,
Yeah.
let's start from the beginning.
Welcome back.
I just wanted to talk about George Kennedy, so I figured that would be the best way.
There were
Wow.
actors. There were actors in The Longest Yard. George Kennedy is an actor. Go.
One time I was in George Kennedy's eye line, and who's that great actor that passed away a couple years ago? He was in The Longest Yard. He was, Crew. He's also in Cujo.
Oh yeah. He always plays that kind of
Great
heavy.
guy.
I can't remember the guy's name.
Great guy.
That's
Said
fantastic.
if Sean were here.
And nowadays, like
call
you
him.
saw The Shape of Water, you want a bad guy in a movie that you could right away. He's the bad guy. Michael Shannon.
Oh,
his
yeah.
face.
Even when he's the
Bad
good guy, he's the bad
He's
guy.
a bad guy.
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, you wait for him to snap,
Yeah.
even when you're rooting for him.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see the movie Bug?
Yeah.
It was the breakout film of Michael Shannon based on a play, and it was I think it's a Friedkin film.
Oh, okay.
William Friedkin, who did The Exorcist.
When he
anybody
pulled
here-
his fingers off, I realized it.
Spoiler
He's
alert.
a tough bastard, man.
I'm realizing now that is your real voice.
Yes.
I thought it was an affectation.
Pitta, good to see you, man.
Hey, man. Wow, it just changed. Hey, man. No, I didn't. I thought it was a character, but that's your real voice.
Well, it's a character in that this is a construct, you know. I mean, but I am real for this moment.
He does exist. He occupies space in our universe.
Yes.
Or so we think.
And I'm in his eye line, quite frankly.
And I will write about you in my biography.
Oh, by the way, thank you for that intro. He's done a pilot that failed. Good. He's about to do a sizzle reel. Can we get lower?
But
Can we
that
get
you've
lower?
done the pilot.
I said no to Warren Littlefield to his face in a room full of yes men. Never do that. Your
What did he
pilot won't
want
get
you to
picked up.
do? What did he want you to do, Mark?
It was he wanted a black person in the show, and regardless of if they fit in the show or not, because they needed demographics.
Oh.
Yeah,
You stood your ground.
I stood my ground, and to
look
this
what I
day,
got you.
Yeah, how's that going?
I'm on Succotash and the Tenderloin.
You say it like it's a bad thing.
Yeah. It's turned around, I have to say.
What,
since
the
I've been here.
Tenderloin?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm born and raised in San Francisco. I always wonder how it must be very hard to be a homeless person here because it's so expensive. Everything is so expensive. So even if you panhandle, like, what are you going to, like, what can you afford? Like,
That's true.
Like Charleston Chew, and then, then what?
Well, you come here for the weather, though.
Ah!
You come here for the weather. You can be homeless in cheaper places, but it's much colder.
That is true. Yeah.
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 How?
Well, you're bracingly alive.
Brisk. My aunt used to say it's brisk, Bill. It's brisk.
Brisk.
Let me get back to sort of the roots of how I got to know you guys.
Okay.
You mentioned you guys were both getting your start here in San Francisco in stand-up comedy.
And you both still perform, right? I mean, Mark,
Ish.
I know you perform, and
He does, really.
Never stopped.
I don't know that Matt gets out on
Not too
stage
much,
all
no,
that much.
no.
But do you
The
see?
podcast is my performing.
Do you watch where stand-up comedy is now? Because when,
Oh, God,
when
no.
we were in it, it was like the sort of ramping up to the big boom of.
Oh, no. Fuck the young. I think there's a lot of, it's funny when I go to a stand-up show in L.A., I'm amazed at how good everybody is for the most part. Because coming up, you know how it is. It's
Yeah.
like, there'd be the great ones, and then there'd be like somebody is just occupying this stage time until their, appointment with their doctor comes through, and then they're gone.
But Matt, you also were an usher at the Curran Theater.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was the backstore. I was the backstage guy.
And tell the story about meeting Jack Lemmon, if you will.
Oh
I like
yeah,
that story.
yeah. There was a play that he was doing with Estelle Parsons, and
Bonnie and Clyde, right?
yes, yeah.
People
And-
know who Jack Lemmon is? Anybody? Jack Lemmon? Okay. All right.
Estelle Parsons fan? No, I didn't.
Bonnie and Clyde won the Oscar Best Supporting Actress. Bonnie and Clyde. Okay.
But they were doing this play, and I guess the play wasn't very well reviewed. It wasn't that great of a play, but it's Jack Lemmon. He's great. And, I was an usher, and I'm cleaning up after the play, and he's walking out, and I
Just
say...
you and him?
It was just me and him.
Wow.
Yeah, he's walking out, and I'm there. And I go, hey, I just wanted to tell you I really enjoyed the play. And he goes, oh, thanks. Tell the audience. Great guy.
I love that.
Yeah, and most of the people, it was funny. You'd get a guy like that who was so down to earth. And then I also worked at the Golden Gate where they had The King and I with Yul Brynner. And with Yul Brynner, it was a whole different thing.
Westworld, anybody? Okay.
Westworld, oh, God. The original Westworld is such a great movie.
The original.
The original
Yes.
Westworld with Yul Brynner.
I've been shot.
Yeah. I've been shot. I've been shot.
Yul Brynner, anyone? People know?
James
Yul-
Brolin.
How about that?
James Brolin.
Just checking.
I said you talk too much.
Mama's boy.
But
I'm just going to quote movies until you guys get upset.
But Yul Brynner, you weren't supposed to look at him. Couldn't look at him.
Ooh.
And if he was walking towards you, you had to walk the other way. You had to wait till he was done walking through his area, and then you could walk through it.
Wow.
And it's just funny to me, like, how does that happen to you in your life that you get to that place where
I heard the
I don't want anyone walking
He always
near
wanted
me?
the dressing room painted like brown or something.
Is that right?
Yeah. Because I went to a couple of different shows in theaters, comedy shows, and they'd be like these brown dressing rooms. I go, why? This seems so sort of dingy and weird. They said, yeah, Yul Brynner wants that when he comes. Because he can't see dirt. If it's all brown, he doesn't see dirty things. Everything's...
I guarantee you, we are the only podcast talking about Yul Brynner right now.
Yes. Yes. Live on tape.
Succotash is
I
born.
love show business stories and meeting your peers and meeting your heroes.
Yeah, that's always a mixed bag.
Yeah, because anybody here in the room ever met like somebody they really admire and they disappointed you? Did they disappoint you? Who was it? Mark who? Bittman. He's a food writer for the New York Times,
Mark
and you are
Pittman.
his fan.
I'm a fan because he has to be disappointed.
There's another chair here if you'd like to sit.
Was he rude? He was very rude? Yeah.
Oh, I got her up here.
All right.
All right.
Yay!
Yay.
I'm opening Succotash up.
Come on in.
That's my
Clearly,
job.
this is non-union.
Succotash.
So,
She didn't even know what the podcast was. This is Succotash.
Oh, sorry.
This is your mic.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a guy, a writer for a food mag.
Does anyone here know Mark Bittman?
Mark
Hello?
Pittman, anyone?
yes.
No one? Just my friends?
Less than Noah Stelgetty. That's interesting.
Okay.
Secret to comedy, no matter what they say, just continue.
Yes. Okay. Mark Bittman. Yes, he's very famous. He's written a lot of stories for the New York Times and books. And I saw him at Market Hall in Rockridge. Anyone been to Oakland in here? So
Rock Ridge.
Nice.
that's it.
Harvey
Across the bay
Korman.
in Oakland. And I was waiting in line to talk with him and have him sign my book. And I said to him, anybody here from the East Coast and know what cavatelli is, frozen cavatelli? Nobody. Okay, so I said to him...
See, now you know how we feel.
Yeah, this is like Matt talking about Centipede.
I said, I love living in California and I love the Bay Area, but you can't get frozen cavatelli here. And he said, learn to live without it.
Wow. That was advice.
What is your name, please? What is your name?
What is your name?
Diane Hines.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
Diane Hines.
Wow.
Diane!
Diane, are you here because you thought Mark Pitta was Mark Pittman? Just curious.
Pittman.
Yeah, she was going to give you something.
I thought so.
Give you what for?
Well, I thought when you met somebody that was your hero, I didn't know we were going to get Pittman.
Oh, there you go. See?
I thought we were going to get somebody we all know.
Hey, how about Michael York?
Yes.
Yeah. Michael York. I love Logan's Run.
Sure.
Big Michael York fan.
Yeah.
Three Musketeers. And there's an autograph show in Los Angeles, and I bring my Logan's Run poster to him, and he charges $30, but I don't care because I'm a dork. And I'm like, please sign this. But I didn't say it that way. What I said was, hi, Mr. York. I'm a big fan of your work, and I really appreciate you coming out here. And first of all, his signature how he signed it, if there was a hieroglyph for "fuck off,"
the emoticon that says "fuck you, Matt Weinhold."
Yeah, that's what it was. It was like, meh. So I'm saying this. Yeah, I'm a big fan of your work, and I, thank you so much for coming here. And he looks at me like I pissed on his shoe. Like he looked up at me and just like if his eyes were a transporter that could make me just go away. He wished for that. But yeah, and that's, why? Look, it's not my fault that you're at an autograph show. I just paid you $30.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I'm gone. Like, I don't want to talk to you because I know that it's going to go badly if we keep talking. Because then I'll go, well, what about the outfits? And so he could have just said thanks, and I would have hightailed it.
Let's bring up
people at the bar. We're trying to do a podcast here. Jesus, are we interrupting your iPad? They can't even hear me. They're so into whatever they're glowing.
I like the fact
we're not glowing, so you can't pay attention. Is that the deal? All right.
Let's on that note, let's bring up a third guest.
Shit, we got to share it.
Yeah,
okay.
Surprise guest came here with Matt, I believe, or came to meet Matt. Yeah,
we're friends.
Friends.
We travel in the same circles.
Welcome, Josh Gilliland.
We're Centipede Brothers.
Josh Gilliland, host of the Legal Geeks podcast.
Legal Geeks podcast.
The Legal Geeks podcast.
Josh
Gilliland.
Josh.
Have a seat, Josh. Welcome to Succotash.
Thank you for having me.
We put the suck in Succotash.
Absolutely. Every week. More Succotash. Josh, it's great to have you with us. I didn't know we'd have another guest, but we have an extra mic just in case, and here you are. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about what Legal Geeks is as a show?
So the Legal Geeks is a blog and podcast where we discuss geek issues in the law. One of the first posts I did was Han Solo's legal justification to shoot first, which was republished in Vulture. We've been recognized by the ABA Journal 5 years in a row for having one of the best blogs and podcasts for lawyers in the country. And it is my creative outlet. Some people paint. I'm a geek and I love the law because, hence being a lawyer, so it's my opportunity to talk about assumption of risk and wearing a red shirt, or being able to go to the movies and take notes and then go home and do issue spotting and write blog posts and collect toys that I then take pictures of in my light box for blog posts.
I can guarantee someone is getting laid tonight. It's going to happen.
So do you do trials and things, or are you more of a litigator?
If I
or
talk this way, would you pay more attention to me? It's wonderful how you speak. Good day to you, sir.
So I focus on electronic discovery in the law. So that is emails and text messages. At the beginning of the 21st century, we really got into how to deal with this in litigation because we want to be able to collect it in a pristine manner and then be able to review it in a way that's efficient so you don't read 500 messages about news alerts and just being able to do things in an efficient manner.
Is this legit?
Yeah,
This is a real thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever dealt with a homicide of two people saying Twin Peaks sucked? No, it was great. You ever have a homicide?
Not like that, but there have been. I've worked on a couple criminal cases at the early part of my career.
Spousal abuse?
No, not that. I've worked on some divorce cases. I've worked mostly on civil litigation.
We have a winner.
Pitta?
Mostly civil litigator. Business disputes, because litigation, can be kind of depressing.
And litigation kind of gives you kind of a hard-on, doesn't it?
No, because I don't like seeing the fighting. We want to.
But that gets you off, doesn't it? I heard that's how you get off.
No, it's not.
Litigation.
No.
Like it
Back
turns
off,
you
Mark.
on. To,
Mark, back
can't
off.
wait to go into that courtroom and turn their heads.
That's a misconception about lawyers. We're not all rabid attack dogs that go through people with chainsaws. We're here to help people.
Wait a minute, what?
Every day, something can blow your mind.
Yeah.
This was today.
Now, I'm curious, speaking of Twin Peaks,
Yes.
have you ever done a Legal Geeks episode? Because there's a lot of legal ramifications in that show.
No, but I should double back. There are shows that I've picked from the 80s that I started watching. Like, for example, a few years ago, I watched all of Magnum P.I. and wrote a blog post on the renters' right issues from Magnum P.I. from living in the guest house. And so that's the type of thing that I.
See, I love that. And Josh does panels at Comic-Con every year. I don't know if you guys ever go to Comic-Con, but his panels are so much fun. They're so funny. But yet you also learn a lot about the law because he has judges, he has other lawyers, and you also do some really fun things with you do these like PowerPoint presentations illustrating everything, and you always use like an action figure or something from the film. But it's a great podcast. I'm kind of a little nerding out on you right now.
Is anybody on this panel in contempt right now?
No, because we're not in a judicial proceeding.
Do you have to have like
The guy at the
disclaimers
bar
or
laughing.
something? Do you have to do a disclaimer to make sure that no one takes what you say and then goes and does something perhaps illegal or something?
That's a good question.
We do. We do have disclaimers on the blog and on the podcast.
Okay.
Just in case anyone is thinking about
Taking
going
you seriously.
Yeah, going to Tatooine or anything like that. We're talking about fictional characters.
Yeah. In general, don't shoot first.
Yeah.
So
I
going
think.
back to the human centipede, how does that legally stand up?
How could I sue Mark Bittman? How could I sue him?
I don't think there's a dilution issue with you because you're in different practice areas.
So we have to be fictional.
Do we need to sue the paper or him personally?
No, I don't think we would do either.
Okay. All right.
Could
Oh,
we
it's
sue the
pretty
Da-
rude.
We could sue the Daily Planet because that's fictional.
Well, why not? Because that's the astounding thing about a comic book world with a successful newspaper still.
So,
Yeah, the last one. The Bugle. Is that still going?
It is.
Okay.
So our audience here, as you can see, we have a wide range of experiences. Do you have any questions about podcasting, comedy, or the law that we can...
Or the Tenderloin. Because I can answer those.
Any questions at all about their show?
When was the last time you went to Mitchell Brothers? Because I just got back in town, and that place is still gold. It really is.
It hasn't changed
Quality
much.
entertainment.
Anybody? Questions? No?
They're
Wow.
shy.
What's Mitchell's Club, apparently?
Mitchell's Club?
Wow.
Very, very familiar.
There must be there's a new room that I'm not aware of.
Mitchell's Club. Well, one of them got killed, so I guess it is Mitchell.
One brother shot the other brother.
Mitchell brother.
Marilyn Chambers I saw there once when I was 18.
Okay.
Does that
Yeah.
answer your question, sir?
I remember I went there once, and there was a shower. They had a shower show, and I thought, well, this is just this is really just theater on the raw right here. Just a girl taking a shower, and you
Performance art.
whatever you bring to it, whatever you want.
There's so.
No,
no touching.
No, I didn't have my
No
equity
touching.
card at the time, so
Well,
I wasn't. The union will get on your ass.
Remember that microphone for the shower? You could sing in the shower and they had a radio
Mr.
in it?
Microphone?
No, it was for the shower only.
No, I thought that was the soap microphone.
Yeah.
It didn't work, really.
Marilyn Chambers made it work.
Does anyone on the panel have questions for the audience?
Yeah, what's your deal? How are you?
This is, I want to ask, this is worth free, right?
Or are we expected to pay? That's
All right.
there we go.
All right.
Now we found the level.
That's all I'm looking for. All right. I just want you to get your money's worth. That's all.
I do want their money eventually, though.
Apparently there is a question over here in the corner, yes?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Who's going to crack down on selling pot?
The president.
Oh, God.
Well, you can't get it in San Francisco. You still need a card or a letter, and in Marin. But the closest one is Berkeley.
I could see the feds cracking down because...
Wait, he says, wait. You're saying that's untrue? You don't need so you just need a driver's license? What dispensary is that, sir?
What are we doing here?
You can go to the. You can just
All
walk
right,
into
I'll
the
run a bus.
apothecary.
I heard that you still had to have a card.
The magical
No.
mystery tour.
Sausalito delivers too, man. Sausalito.
Well, no, I know. I have a delivery, but they still need a card.
Or you can just walk right into the apothecary.
Have you ever been to these dispensaries? They look like Wells Fargo banks. They have LCD screens. They have under glass all the pot, and the names of the pot are fun. I particularly like Down Goes Frazier. That's a good one.
These people are like
Down Goes
sommeliers.
Frazier.
Yeah, there's a great pot strand called I Think Someone's Following Me. That's a good one. That's kind of a strong one.
They say that the early harvest is the one that gets you paranoid, so you want to get the later harvest.
Yeah? What are you carrying right now? Because
Well, I left it at home, but I don't drive with it. But
No.
I remember, like, the first time I went in there, the sommelier said, "Well, young man," I was much younger, but he said, "Do you want to get stoned or do you want to get high?" And I thought, well, that's a very interesting distinction. He said, "Do you want to just sit there on the couch with the remote going blah, 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 or do you want to think, oh, what a great idea. I have to write this down." So, I mean, he got me thinking about it in different ways. The pot sommelier is really your ticket to a better night's sleep.
It's like Mr. Pillow.
Mr. Pillow.
But you know what? That's an interesting take on that because I just forgot what he said.
is there a strand?
Nice to meet you,
What's that
Mark. I've
strand?
heard so much good about
That
you.
should be a strand name.
Everybody loves you.
I want the one where it's right in the middle, where you start thinking up a really great idea, and then you just
that's
go.
what I wanted
"Bleh."
to say.
Yes.
Have you ever written a joke on pot and you still think it was funny when you tried it on stage?
A couple of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are certain
George
jokes.
Carlin did.
George Carlin did a lot, but I wrote a joke on pot and no one laughed, but you could tell it was written on pot. I said, if Mother Nature married Father Time, I would give it 2 weeks. But on pot, that is fucking hilarious.
It's a deep joke, though. It's deep.
Oh, shit.
So do you guys, because
Every time we get on a roll.
you guys are or have been podcasters, is there a favorite podcast you guys like to listen to? Because I've noticed
Monster Party.
I do like Monster
besides
Party.
your own, and I've noticed I've interviewed probably 200 podcasters so far.
I
on
like Monster
Succotash.
Party, and I like the Carson podcast about Johnny Carson. There's one called the Carson Podcast.
Oh yeah.
I love
good
the
one.
Dana Gould show.
Same here. I listen to Myths and Legends, Lore, Spycast from the International Spy Museum is excellent.
Do people in the audience have podcasts you listen to?
Are there anybody here tonight? Bob Sarlett, 1968.
Anything? Any podcast? Nothing? No. All right.
I am currently single. I just went through a divorce.
You know, I remember probably the sweetest moment that I remember from Succotash. I think you were playing a clip of Mark Maron, who was doing an interview with Jonathan Winters, and it was very late in his life. And I just remember how Jonathan Winters, I mean, you're talking about some stars who are less than generous with their time, and Jonathan Winters was like, he maybe had a few days to go, but he was being so generous in saying, keep looking, keep asking, keep laughing, keep asking those questions, keep diving into it. And I found him like dying and inspirational. And I thought, this is good podcast. This is very, very good.
Maron does have a very good podcast. I do like that one a lot.
Was Maron late in life, or was it Jonathan? I can't. Okay.
Well, I didn't listen to Mark Maron. I was listening to Jonathan Winters. He was just really, really Superman.
Jonathan Winters left the Hungry Eye in North Beach. This is a very famous story. You should know it if you're San Franciscans. He went off the stage and he walked to the wharf and he climbed the mast of the Balclutha, which is the pirate ship that is still there.
Oh,
that's right.
And he was taken away to a
sanitarium
of sorts.
Laughing Academy.
Yes, Laughing Academy.
I think it was because his wife had just left him.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
20 years later, I'm interviewing him, and we're at Moose's restaurant, which is no longer there, but the building is. It was an indoor-outdoor restaurant, and they opened it up for us. And there was a guy that walked by the street, saw Jonathan Winters, and said, "Jonathan, the Balclutha is still there." And Jonathan looked at me and goes, "They never forget." So his rep was intact. They never forget.
They never forget.
But he also put a towel around his arm and became our waiter for 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, he would do an improvisation as our waiter. And he sat back down and he goes, "I do that in lieu of medication."
Now, I'm sure you've seen, as a aficionado of movies, It's a Mad World. The making of extras on that DVD are great because they always talk about Jonathan Winters and how, you had this cast of some of the greatest comedians of the time. And Jonathan Winters was the one who would crack everybody else up. Yeah. And when there was downtime and they'd be sitting around in the trailer, Jonathan Winters would be there, and Mickey Rooney would go, okay, Sergeant, when are we going to take that hill? And that would be it. That's all he'd need. Just go off for 20 minutes.
My favorite on the set story was Day of the Dolphin.
With George C. Scott?
George C. Scott had a reputation of being very... people were scared of George C. Scott.
Especially dolphins.
But Buck Henry wrote the adaptation, and Buck Henry liked to play chess with George C. Scott. But George C. Scott had these two huge mastiffs. Huge dogs. But again, everyone on the crew was scared of George C. Scott. And the dogs were kind of unruly. He was trying to play chess, and George C. Scott goes, "Sit down!" And everybody in the crew just went, "Woo!" That's how scared they were.
Rommel,
I read your book.
I have a go-to movie, which also leads to a good celebrity encounter.
Go.
Wrath of Khan. When I was 15, I was hospitalized and nearly died, and I would watch that every day along with Raiders of the Lost Ark. Well, my godmother wrote to Leonard Nimoy, and he sent me a get well card in the hospital.
Wow.
In 2009, when Star Trek came out, that movie, he was the keynote at a legal event I was at. Oh. So I was in line with the first 30 people to go up and talk to him with 900 people behind me. And I went up and shook his hand and said, "Sir, I just want to thank you. When I was a kid, I nearly died, and you sent me a get well card." I then started to move away because I didn't want to hold up the line behind me because the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And he stopped me, hand on my shoulder, full-on Vulcan nerve pinch, and I wasn't expecting that. And he said, "I'm very glad I did that." He stopped me 3 times to ask me questions.
Really?
He was gracious, he was kind, sweet, and just an absolutely delightful human being. And the look in his eye was, something I won't forget because it meant a lot when I was a kid.
And then Shatner said, "You still alive?"
Yeah.
Do you still have that get well card?
Yeah, Frank.
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, why did you almost die?
That's when you think we're going up.
It's a subtext in this
on a
thing,
lighter
but really,
note.
I mean, the man just said something. What happened?
Crohn's disease. I had a ruptured bowel because I was misdiagnosed for 5 years and nearly died horribly.
That's our show.
You happy your pride, Bill?
Back to centipede.
But I got better. So that's
Actually, you mispronounced. It was Conn's disease, and no, sorry. I'm just trying to make light of everything.
Right. Yes.
That's what we do. How many people are big fans?
I have a brush with celebrity with Dabney Coleman.
Oh.
Go.
Dabney Coleman. I was out to dinner with
Tootsie, Buffalo Bill.
Yes.
a woman I was going out with, and Dabney Coleman was at this dinner. And so we're having dinner, and it was in Westwood. And we get done with dinner, and there was a couple other people there, and Dabney takes me and this woman aside and says, hey, you guys want to come back to my place and play some pool? I said, okay. So we can't go back. Well, he keeps calling me Steve. My name is Mark, but he keeps calling me Steve. And I just go, all right, whatever.
I'm Steve.
Finally, at the end of the night, we're saying goodbye, and he says, now, your name isn't really Steve, is it? I said, no, it isn't. It's Mark. He said, well, why didn't you ever correct me? I said, I'm never going to see you again. And he was right. No, I was right.
And you were
Never
right.
seen him again since.
Well, you're improv trained, so you and.
I jumped right.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Steve.
Yeah.
Let me be Steve.
I was at the Improv once, and the late, great Harry Dean Stanton. By the way, if you haven't seen Lucky, see that movie. It's his last movie, and it's fantastic. And if he doesn't get an Oscar nomination for Lucky, they might as well just melt that Oscar into a soap dish, because that guy was brilliant in Lucky.
What a tribute to him, you know? I mean, that movie was
And what a
way
great
to
last
check out.
movie.
What a great
The way
way
it
to
ends
check
and
out.
everything,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
But he's a great character actor, and he was in Wild at Heart. And I'm at the bar at the Improv, and they had a jukebox. And when Harry Dean Stanton walked in, Wicked Game started playing, the Chris Isaak song they used in Wild at Heart. And he sits at the bar. I said, Harry, I don't know you. Did you do it? They played the theme from Wild at Heart, or Wicked Game, when you walked in. Did you know that? And he looked at me very drunk, and he goes, I was in that movie. that was my Harry Dean Stanton movie.
All right.
Did you see him when he came to town many years ago and he played at the old...
With his guitar?
yes,
No,
he
no.
did a little guitar thing at the old...
But that Lucky is a great movie, and it's directed by another character actor, John
Cassavetes.
Carroll Lynch,
Oh, sorry.
who was the guy in Zodiac they thought was the Zodiac killer, the bald guy.
okay.
Yeah.
He directed it.
Wow.
I really pissed off Christopher Reeve.
No.
Yes, yeah. And this is pre-accident.
Okay, I was going to ask.
Nice, better.
Yeah, no.
You don't want to do it after. That
Oh,
would be
yeah, no, that would have been really,
What did you
really
do
unfortunate.
What did you do that pissed him off?
I was...
You were in line to get Michael York's autograph?
Michael York had told him about me. And so I was doing the Alex Bennett show. And he was the guest. And you ever have one of those moments where you go, I've got a great idea, and it's not. It's really not.
But your gut said it was.
But your gut said, this is going to be hilarious.
Your instincts.
So I thought, it'll be funny, when he shows up, I'll be in a Batman costume. And when he walks in, he'll be like, oh, there's my old foe, and we'll have some funny repartee.
How'd that go?
Not so well.
Yeah.
No.
I'm thinking, right, just as you said that, I'm thinking, that's not a fun, that's not a good idea.
No.
Why
Again,
did Matt think that was
a lot
a good idea?
lot of big mistakes in the 80s. Yeah.
And on that note, we actually have to get out of here. But I want to get you
What?
guys. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Can I pay for another half-hour rental?
But Josh, why don't you tell folks where they can find Legal Geeks?
TheLegalGeeks.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter at TheLegalGeeks.
My book is going to be sold on Amazon.com. I think I'll make some money. My book is called Add to Cart. And the
funny.
sequel, Proceed to Checkout. Look for it on Amazon.
Mark Pitta, ladies and gentlemen, and
For return to shopping.
Matt Weinhold.
Yeah. You can find Monster Party on Facebook, Monster Party TV, on Twitter, Monster Party HQ, and on Instagram, Monster Party HQ. And we're also on Google Play and iTunes. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy it.
And if you want to hear me really drunk, where I started,
yeah.
I started repeating stories.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Matt didn't tell me.
Oh, it's fantastic.
That was
I
Yeah.
heard
That was a good
episode.
one.
Yeah.
So let's have a hand for our guest, won't we? Matt Weinhold,
Thank you.
Mark Pitta, Josh Gilliland. As promised, it's time for our final cavalcade of gratitude, which is where we thank those folks that have taken the time to tweet, retweet, follow, like, heart, thumbs up, poke, or otherwise mention Succotash in their social media streams. Plus, I thank a number of folks who've been very supportive over the years that we've been doing the show.
Love Handles Podcast, Jody Be Crazy, Raiders Lost Commentary, Keith Coogan, Friends Without Benefits, Jason Horton, Gratuitous Phil, Greek Lunacy, Christine Blackburn, 7 Days a Geek, SupDoc, Rooftop Comedy, SF Sketchfest, our old pal Rick Overton, Pinky Lovejoy Coogan, The Slant, Universal Monsters, George Buss, Phil Lairness and Dean Haglund over at Chillpack Hollywood Hour, BS Podcast Network, Monotone Bill, ZP International, Denef, Jeff Hewitt, Salty Language Podcast, K-Van, Podcast Booster Bot, Ed Wallach, that's right, Ed Wallach, over at Don't Quit Your Daycast, David Keckner, Random Chatterings, GIF of Assholes, Star Wars Minute, Jordan Brady, David the Producer, JP Gound, Kennedy Consulting, Piano Fight, Tribe Boost, Sunshine City, Kimberly K. Couples, The Naked Porch Podcast, Wayama Emanuel, Hunter Block, and Now We Drink, Jason Jabs McNamara, Dave Nelson, Nug Nargang, Illusionoid, Jeffrey Hyde, Superhero Speak, Charlie Miller, Crowbama, Davian Dent, Royal and Doodle, Podcast Whore, Monica Homburg, Norman Trousers and River Zambezi of the Kaza Mirth Soundcast, Rich Pinder, Greg Proops, Dana Carvey, Mark Pitta, Matt Weinhold, Gabriel Diani, Etta Devine, Cole Stratton, David Owen, Janet Varney, Frank Cronin, Dex Carvey, Tom Carvey, Hal Loveland, Mark Gagliardi, Wayne Fetterman, Kenny Durgis, Bill Haywatt, our amazing associate producer Tyson Sainer, the fantastic Joe Polino, and for her support in my doing this crazy thing the past 7 years, my wife Deborah Hershon.
Bill Haywatt,
Hello.
you got us an outro to go here?
Yeah. Hey, folks, you've been listening to Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast with your host, Marc Hershon. And we'd like to thank our guests, Matt Weinhold and Mark Pitta, and everybody else who brought up here. And brought to you by the new Me Too trousers from Henderson's Pants. Find us on the web at succotashshow.com, on iTunes, on Stitcher Smart Radio, on SoundCloud, and on the Laughable app. You can hear us streaming and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Succotash Show. Email us at marc@succotashshow.com, or call into the Succotash hotline at our toll call number 818-921-7212. Succotash is produced and engineered by Joe Paulino through the auspices of Studio P. Sausalito, home of the hit. Our associate producer is Tyson Sainer. Our musical director is Scott Carvey. Our booth assistant is Kenny Durgis. I'm your loyal announcer, Bill Haywatt, reminding you to please pass the Succotash. And now, possibly forever, folks, this has been an amazing 7-year run, even though it had to kind of end here in this weird Tenderloin diving bar. There's some really nice artwork there.
Good way to go
The
out.
bartenders do some nice heavy pours, and everybody up here was very nice. This young lady who stepped up and told her story, and like, what a hell of a way to go. So thank you so much.
The refund table.
The refund table is there, and I just want to thank you all for coming, and goodbye.
How come, Mark, your microphone was the best one?
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Mine looked like it came out of that movie Centipede.